Welcome back to the 1009 podcast. This is Grayson taking over intro duties for Bailey, who is not with us, but he is temporarily replaced by Seth Baker, more commonly known as Beezy, because Clemson played football. So now he has something to report to us with sports he cares about, because Clemson football is involved. So Clemson Spring Game over the weekend, I was one of the 50,000-ish in attendance. Pretty much the whole lower deck was filled. A lot of people on the hill as well. That was good to see. Still some renovations happening over towards the west end zone, but that'll be wrapped up well before kickoff in the fall, I'm sure. So we'll start there. I mean, we're a Clemson Bias podcast, a bunch of alums here. So Seth, we'll start with you as the resident expert on all things Clemson football. Any initial takeaways from the biggest source of overreactions in the football calendar?
I mean, like I told y'all the other day, I know it's not the best reaction, but it was a spring game, and it seemed like a spring game. It seemed like we had a pretty stripped back playbook, trying to get all that stuff implemented. Nobody really stood out to me. I mean, Cade threw 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. He did lead 2 touchdown drives, right?
Yeah, they're moving the ball decently well. One of the picks was tipped. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Benefit of context. But yeah, BZ, we didn't score 78 points in a spring game. So the sky is falling, even though we had tight ends running crossing routes for the first time in several years.
Every single pass thrown in the middle of the field was a pro to me.
I
Brady
agree.
Stool stood out a little bit too. He had a couple really nice plays with Cade, and it's just glimpses, because I doubt Riley has implemented hardly any of his playbook. His playbook is not super complicated though, right? It's pretty basic and then plays around the player's strengths, from my understanding.
Depends on what you're...
Right. There's simple and complex parts of it, like with anything else except for last year maybe. But I think that's the big takeaway, is the stripped away part, because you're not going to put your whole playbook on national TV in the middle of April. There's no point. You could please fans on message boards, and then you wonder why you score 15 points a game when it counts. That doesn't help. So I think the main thing is just reasonable expectations, and this is 2 years in a row now with a first-year OC. And as we saw last year, things don't just click and magically get better when you switch people out in positions. So I think there's going to be a bit of patience. Weird road opener in conference play going to Duke, I believe, to open the season. So we may see a slow start there. And, we saw it as we endured what was the disaster that became the Louisiana Tech game early last year. So I think that this is not the first time we're going to overreact to it. This is kind of the nature of this whole thing. But it was nice to see some Clemson football. I agree. Brady Stool stood out. I think he's going to be great with Cade. We're going to use tight ends more, not just essentially throw them out of bounds and try and get a couple yards on something horizontal. So that's going to be good. Utilizing the middle of the field, like you mentioned also, I think was encouraging to see, even in a limited reserved fashion, because again, it is glorified practice, just with people in the stands and referees and paint, all that stuff. Any other overreactions from you, Jacob?
No, but I'd like to hear Beezy's take on why nobody stood out on the whole game. Nobody, the whole game.
No freshman running back stuff. Not.
I did what's his? I can't even remember his name. Is it Thomas? What was the guy's last name that was kind of running over people? I can't remember it.
I mean, Mafo for one, but I know you're talking.
Mafo was good. Who was the?
There was a true freshman that showed flashes of encouraging things. His name on the spot escapes me as well, but I'm sure that as we get more nuggets out of fall camp and things like that later in the calendar of the preseason, that he'll have more of a name for himself. I think he's a walk-on, though, I believe, at running back.
Transfer from I don't know.
I think he did. Somebody was running downhill and fighting for yards, and that was...
I think it was him. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Once again, we can't we shouldn't necessarily even make... Yeah, we shouldn't even make reactions on that, because
right.
trying a lot harder than other people.
Probably so, yeah.
Right.
mean-
There's definitely an effort disparity when, your life's made versus it's not. So I think that's
That
a good
is
point
true.
too.
With based on what we saw, and like I've heard this kind of reiterated too, is like he's the number 3 guy. There's between obviously Shipley and Maffa. Those are 1 and 2. I've heard arguments for Maffa being 1, but
I mean, like Maffa is a much more like traditional back.
yeah,
Like Maffa should get 25 touches, like out of the like we showed the pistol formation. Like if you want, like if Maffa needs 20 touches out of the pistol formation, and you want to split Shipley off wide because we have no talent on the outside, like I will.
Right.
Like I'll hear.
no, yeah, he can be used kind of like ETN's used the Jags kind of. So
When you see McCaffrey right there, and you
Yeah.
went.
oh, McCaffrey, yeah, that's a better comparison.
The player he was immediately compared to when he committed. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
I don't know. I was just thinking of Clemson guys, man.
I credit you for branching out past the obvious one. But yeah, it's something Jacob
not
slid in
sure.
there.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure Seth keeps up with anybody but Clemson football.
No, once
I
McCaffrey
was-
sat out
I
the Sun
had-
Bowl, Seth ceased to care about it.
Yeah, I was
So,
done. He like, come on, dude, come on.
his first opt out ever, I think. So
He might have been.
It was either him or Fournette. I don't remember who
Right.
first.
That was like when when people started doing that, though, for sure.
That was when people started roasting them, though. Like, now we're all kind of like, whatever. But, like, that year, everyone was like, they're a bad teammate. Like, they're not going
it
to.
was the exception, not the rule. Absolutely.
Right.
Kind of like we saw with Clemson guys being the first to opt out of the bowl game.
Right.
But to what Jacob kind of slid in there innocently, but it's a big kind of question mark. The outside talent at receiver. And I guess they're cursed by the lineage we've had come through as far as, big body possession receivers that obviously go to the NFL and have even more success than they did in college, because there's really not one on the team. I know Bo Collins, Will Taylor, a couple other guys at receiver out, not playing. Shipley didn't dress either, but I wasn't too inspired by the guys that were out there necessarily.
And Antonio Williams is going to be fine. We know he's going to be a stud.
Right, that's why we have questions about.
Will Shipley's still going to be a stud. So, like, those two guys are good. But like you said, there's not a big body like 6'3", 6'4", like, hey, man, go on a go route and snag a ball. Like, we don't necessarily have any of those guys.
We had guys. I heard we had quite a number of receivers coming in the summer. I mean, granted, we can't rely on a freshman, but
What to look right now.
We tried last year. Randall, when healthy, was good.
yeah, I
I mean,
mean, was he
Sure
playing?
things.
Did Randall?
I don't think he played.
I don't
But
believe so.
when healthy, but like he hasn't played. We just heard he looked
Right.
good
Yeah.
in camp. And like, how many years do we hear Joe and Gata look good in camp? 5.
All of the years, yeah. Every year.
So
You never hear a guy look bad in fall camp. I
Right.
will say that.
Right.
That is true.
So we have
Yeah.
the Noble Johnson kid who's already on campus.
He looked okay, yeah.
He looked developed, I'll say, like in the
Right.
least way possible. Like he looked like he could play.
Like he's been there 3 months, yeah.
Other than that, that was the only wide receiver commit of note.
He was the top receiver in the recruiting class, so it makes sense.
We only had, in what recruiting class?
This one.
Ours?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, sorry, Clemson's class.
we only had 2, and the other one was Tyler Brown, and he was a 3-star from Greenville.
Right, but we have 4 guys that are 5'10" from the Daniel area. Why would you go and add anybody else?
I think Noble kid is listed at 6'2", 205. I don't think so. I would say he's closer to 6 foot 6'1" based off of what he's at. But regardless, he's not T. Higgins, Justin Ross,
No.
Williams.
And we can check the juiced big weigh-in measurements as well when they get to that. But
I mean, I guess we're just kind of hoping on, Adam Randall looking good because he is the guy.
yeah,
He's going to run a 4.4, 4.5, maybe not a 4.4, but he's a 4.5 guy, and he's 6'3", and he can be 220 pounds, and he can go up and get it. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Cole Turner is that guy.
That bowl game went a long way. I think people already kind of forgot about it a bit, but if he can replicate any of that over,
He is like 6'2".
right?
Like-
It's that the potential is really there. As much as we may laugh about it now,
And everyone says he runs like a 4.4. So
People act like he's kind of Hunter Renfro style. So
no one is
he's got a
not Hunter Renfro, but you know
that was so racist, Seth. That was so racist.
why?
I have yet to see him holding a bag of grapes, so I will hold off on that comparison.
No one has ever made the comparison other than they're both white. That he is
both white, both unknown. They both got, they're both dependable receivers apparently.
Dude, no, Cole Turner's not. Dude goes on the outside and runs a burner go route for 50.
Yeah.
Right, he made a name for himself in that bowl game, even in the loss. I think that a lot of people their eyes were open to the potential he has, and it may be leaned on more than we may like, but it could be there.
Receiver for like a year and a half.
Right, that was like the worst graphic I saw. I hated seeing it every week for literally like 2 years.
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
The only
Cole-
what?
Cole Turner was our only 100-yard receiver for like
A very long time.
Oh gosh, that's really bad.
Yeah.
Antonio Williams didn't do that.
not before Cole Turner. I guess he never has that.
That's insane, man. But yeah, why are we having so many injuries too? That's another question. Why are so many guys out? How come people are not healthy? Like, I don't remember a spring game with so many guys out.
Before we get off this, Cole Turner last year, 101. That was the only 100-yard receiver last year.
Right. Yeah.
Antonio Williams had a high of 83 versus Louisville. In 2021, the only Bo Collins had 137 against Wake Forest to end the year. So, yeah.
What's going on with their sports medicine team? Why is everybody out?
I think now more than ever I don't think baby is the right word, but if guys are even iffy, there's no reason in the world to run them out there.
On the spring game or just
Spring game, beanie bowl, I don't care. If it's not scored, then no.
I guarantee you Will Shipley practiced that week.
Yes, not in green or yellow either.
No, he practiced. He just practiced. Yeah.
Which is all a spring game is, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
Just in front of 50,000 people.
Probably in a little bit more intensity because of that, the people from like the walk-on types. But yeah, I mean, I guarantee Will Shipley played like Walker Parks. What was that, like his brother's wedding, right?
Yeah, there was a couple other O-linemen out.
But like I said, Will Shipley plays. I mean, a lot of guys like. Do you need how many of your fifth-year guys, if they're even a bit banged up, need to go play in the game?
Like, do you really want to run Xavier Thomas out there for 20 snaps?
Do you really?
Seriously, I mean,
was it Chad Kelly that tore his ACL in the spring game a long time ago?
After he got kicked out?
I was about to say, I don't know.
Out of the game.
Yeah.
But he got kicked out on the spring game. I thought he tore his ACL in the spring game.
No, I think he maybe both.
They get the house party after the spring game. Who knows?
Maybe one.
I'm just thinking like he was a highly, I wouldn't say highly touted, but I mean he had a little bit of hype, and he injured himself in some kind of stupid situation where, he tore his ACL.
I know that, but I don't. He did it.
It might have been in a real game, but it was like a crappy game, like one of the first.
He did it in November 6th of 2016 when he was at Ole Miss. Is when he tore his UCL or ACL. Sorry,
but he tore his ACL at Clemson.
No, he didn't.
He did.
I don't remember that saga very well.
Yes, he did.
He did. When?
Spring game.
It was a spring game? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So there's your answer. We don't know Chad Kelly. So I think honestly, it's just I think it's just less of an emphasis on availability for stuff like this when you can just not even risk availability for the season essentially.
Yeah. No, I mean we have to have Shipley. We have to have Parks,
Sheridan, JP, Xavier Thomas, like
there's probably close to 10 guys out.
Tyler Davis didn't play. Does Tyler Davis need to play in the spring game? No.
That's more of the thing for guys we have questions about, and a lot of the guys that didn't play, we really don't have questions about. So
That is actually that is very true. Like all of our guys that we know how they are, those are the guys that we're not playing.
like I'd rather see number 11, Peter Woods, go out and play his ass off than to be praying that Tyler Davis doesn't step on somebody's cleat while he's out there.
And Tyler Davis would be playing against our like second string left guard.
Right, which is that hilarious but not productive.
Right.
Because I mean, yeah.
Now, what do you think of Woods?
I thought he looked pretty good.
I mean,
Again, right. In the context of it's a spring game, and
But-
you know,
I mean, it's nice to just see like him dominate in a spring game after seeing reports that he's been dominating in practice.
right. When the secondhand stuff becomes live, it's nice to see that actual follow through. Because like we've said before, there's no negative things coming out of our guys in any kind of closed practice setting. Just doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
it's not going to be spoken about.
yeah. No one in springs being like, whatever. Christopher Vizino looks terrible. It's like,
Right.
you know.
It's like, no, he's slowly coming along or something like that. There's always
Right.
the spin zone. Unless you just don't want to have a press credential. That's kind of how the game's played.
Right.
But
I thought Vizina, I mean, he looked like he could be a decent backup too. I mean, he looked like he could move. That's what I noticed. As much as he could move with the sack rule that we had Saturday.
well, yeah, some of it he was running straight at people because he wouldn't get touched, which again, spring game. But
I mean, I've just
if that
felt,
becomes a habit, he's gonna get teed off on.
yeah, I
but
mean,
I don't think it will be.
it's going to be different in a in-game situation, but like he seemed pretty quick to me. So that was good to see.
He was playing against walk-ons, so
I mean, pretty
Right. Again, mobility is a great tool. We have certainly needed some of that from QB position lately. So I think that's a
I
welcome
think that's
change.
another reason why I'm noticing it so much, because we haven't had it for 2 years.
Right. At least not in the regular season. I mean, obviously, Charlotte, we saw what that impact had. We didn't have a quarterback with concrete on his feet. But I think that, again, welcome changes even in small bursts, like we saw with a lot of stuff.
Do you think, Jacob, you think Cade and Grayson too? I didn't feel like he was moving out of the pocket as much as he did last season, but maybe he was.
Probably a plus, honestly. I think there's a point where that's not really what you want, because if your whole offense is just scramble, scramble, scramble across your body, heave it, you're not going to do a whole lot.
Well, no, I'm saying, did you feel like he did again Saturday? Did you feel like he was scrambling around like crazy Saturday?
I mean, in the red zone, there was that one or two, which again, when you get down there and the play's busted, you don't really have a choice. But again, I think that they kind of have the freedom to do whatever they want back there because they're not getting hit. So maybe a little more creativity compared to a real situation, like if they're live, which they wouldn't be at QB. But it's kind of hard to gauge it just because they know in the back of their head, nobody's going to touch me.
And also, so Davo has an inconsistent whistle. Sometimes,
yeah.
So like you don't know, like a lot of those, like the quarterback is getting out of it. A guy like Cade, like is like there's one of the times last the game he was back up, like drift back, and then a guy touches him with his left arm coming around like the edge. Well, Cade probably runs it up, and I'm thinking of one specific play. Like he probably just runs forward for like 10 yards. But I need to see Cade. I need to see him instead of drift back in the pocket. You take a 5 yard, take a 7 yard snap, and you do a 3-step drop. Well, nothing's there. You're going to your first, second, third read. Like instead of just going back, like in the pocket, he just kind of stands there and like lets the pocket form around him. And then if there's nothing there, you go up the middle of the pocket, and then you do left and right. There's obviously going to be times when you take it, you roll to the right, roll to the left, but I need to see him like stick in the pocket. And right now, I haven't necessarily seen that he has the ability to do that.
It's going to take trust in the O-line. Well, either one. I think it's a combination of both those things, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a bow. I mean, The ability, I mean, once again, he has only really played in like 1.5 games.
Right. There's also
Yeah, he probably wasn't.
patience point because
If he has time in the pocket and he's doing that, I mean, that's where our issue is. If he's been rush in the pocket and like he's just kind of antsy, I mean, it kind of makes sense. But if he can trust his O-line, I think I did see a comment from him where he felt like he had a little bit less pressure. But again, it was a spring game and he wasn't going to get sacked. It wasn't live for him. So,
but even like not live, the dude knows he's the starter now, right?
That pressure is gone as well. So.
They said on the broadcast Cole Vizina is going to redshirt, like unless something terrible happens, like he's going to redshirt. So I don't think whenever Hunter Helms is going to press Cade, even though he looked pretty good. So I don't know. But he's just got to like understand that like whether I get hit in the pocket or out of the pocket, like it's going to hurt regardless. You kind of give yourself a much better chance if you just stick in the pocket, let the pocket form around you, because if you go outside every time, then your tackles are like, well,
there's no pocket. It's just you might win a one-on-one to get lucky, but
if there's a good end coming up the line and he's taking like a straight angle, kind of to the quarterback, the tackle can't like push him and keep going with his momentum. He knows like, oh shit, I have to get out in front of him, and now the DN sees that he just cuts inside before he does that because there's a super open lane. So, like, we have to stick with our fundamentals here. And I'm sure this isn't anything that he is not hearing. I'm sure somebody's telling him this. We just have to get better at it.
I'm sure Riley's sitting down with him watching last year saying, like, look, like these are fine, but your third read cannot be run around every single play. It just can't. Second or third read can't just be, okay, now it's time to have happy feet and just run around until something magically appears, because a lot of times it won't.
Even it was like that, like 13-yard comeback to the wide side of the field. Impressive throw. It was just a tad late. So, but like he made it. Like, so there, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say that he can't do it, because I think he can. Like, he's obviously a very talented quarterback. We just got to see it, right?
Yeah. And like you say, he's played a game and a half, so really is not a lot of opportunity for him to do it, and he'll have a full season now to do so. But like I said, I think I'm like 95% sure we open at Duke to start the season, so that'd be a good test for him. First road game. I know he's played neutral field, whatever you want to call it, in Charlotte against North Carolina, but I think it'd be good for a much improved Duke team. Like, they're not the 35-10 walkover team they were. Elko's got them playing pretty good football. Made a bowl game last year, which is the exception, not the rule for Duke historically. So I think that's not going to be a cupcake game that we can just go in and kind of go through the motions and make a ton of mistakes and still win by 21. It's going to be a much stiffer test than we're used to, especially in August or early September, wherever that game falls. But
we're going to have to be very dependent on our defense on that one.
Right, which I'm pretty comfortable with that, honestly.
No, I think we can, but I don't know if we will. Like, Riley has scored everywhere he wins.
Right. That's true.
Like, his offense works. And
has he had the talent? Has he had better talent? He probably had better talent at TCU. At wide receiver.
Yeah,
Quentin Johnson kind of pushes the scale. So, that's...
yeah.
He's not having Quentin Johnson now.
He's more of a run first guy, or no? He's an air raid. I don't know. He utilizes run a lot. I do know that. Riley.
Yeah, not really, but
I thought he did place a lot of priority on like establishing a run game, but like an air raid with a ton of.
More than Mike Leach.
With the running backs we have, maybe.
He runs more than Mike Leach did, RIP. But he's not running like it's Wisconsin.
No. Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, he definitely, for an air raid offense, he still utilizes run pretty excessively and, like, makes that a super important facet of the game.
I don't even know if
throwing all over the field.
Call them an air raid offense. Like, can you call?
It's just what I've heard.
Can you call? That's the problem with labels, right? They're black and white. Like, there's no discrepancy between them.
So people will stretch them to make it fit, which is
Yeah, like
how we get here.
I would say that's a true air raid, but
He invented it, did he not?
I think it did.
I mean,
Michael
he's the architect, so that's kind of how that goes.
Michael didn't invent it, but he's like the direct descendant of.
That makes sense.
Like he learned it from like some NAIA school in like Iowa. Oh, developed it together in an Iowa college with Hal Mum. Him and Hal Mum
Okay.
developed it in the late 80s at Iowa Wesleyan University. So there you go.
I should probably brushed up on that with the Riley era beginning in Clemson.
Yeah, I need to brush up on the concepts too.
But yeah, so that was
In 500 yards per game in his first season at SMU.
that's
Second season it was 470.
Anything starting with a 4, I think we would happily accept.
TCU 455.
What are we talking about?
That's
This is
play.
Riley's
Yards per game
per game.
under Riley's offense.
his minimum is 455. Yeah. So if we're in that low fours, I mean that's kind of
He's the OC for a year if it's low force. And we, this season progresses to where it did prior to 2 years ago for about half a decade with the playoff appearance, or we're playing for it in Charlotte. So I think that's. I mean, we can take as many positives and invent as many negatives as we want, but at the end of the day, it's a glorified scrimmage. But we've been deprived for 3 months. We've got another 4 or 5 until these games actually count. So not a whole lot else to react to. So we can obviously overreact to the spring stuff. Next time we'll see this team is, the rare open practice or the Beanie Bowl, which is literally scripted scrimmage. So there's really nothing to glean from that. So, I mean, all in all, it's good to see the Clemson on the field, fans in the stadium, stuff like that. I mentioned some construction in the west end zone that'll be cleaned up for sure. Field looked great. People are excited to come in.
how did you seen it?
Here's the thing, that I don't think we probably didn't run any of our plays yesterday, because I remember an interview
No.
where he was like, "Yeah, we ran through all of our plays today in practice number 2," and he has 40 different plays. So I think they're out of a bunch of different formations to be advantageous to different coverages and stuff, but they're really it's not. I don't think it's that complicated.
No, I think that was a selling point to where you're trying to forget what you knew and dumb things down, where it's just you kind of start from scratch and make it simple from there.
So, I mean, whatever. We spent a lot of time on Clemson with that. That was being DJ Fatso on Saturday State.
What if he just goes out there and throws 500 yards?
I'll be the next one to jump off of Memorial Stadium. Yeah, that one. If he passes for 500 yards, yeah, I'll jump off.
Well,
How was the crowd, Grayson? Typical.
it was good. I mean, pretty reactive for lower bowl only, and then the 4 or 5 people that somehow get in the upper deck. But I think it was a lot of excitement just to see the new offense, even in the limited fashion. And of course, everybody's gonna go around and say that the middle of the field's open for business, so we're gonna score 60 points a game and beat everybody 60-3, which won't happen past September. But it's good to feel a little bit of a more optimistic approach to how people are talking about this team now. And it's unfortunate that it took a personnel change, but it looks like it's going to benefit Clemson certainly. So,
oh, damn, it's DJ's birthday. Happy birthday, DJ.
good listen. That's that timing, you can't beat it. I have to keep that in. So that's one thing.
Oh God. Anyways, so yeah, spring game fun. Grayson had fun. Live sporting events are always fun, where regardless of if they mean something or not, it's just fun to get people together.
Yeah, it's an excuse to sit in Memorial Stadium for a little bit. So I'll take it. Jumping to the professional side of this football sport we love so much, Jalen Hurts got paid today. 4-year extension, I believe a 5-year deal total with this year being included in that as well. The cap hit numbers are a little strange. His cap hit the next 4 years, this season $6 million, followed by 13, 21, and $31 million. So a clear carve out to keep that title window going. They were just minutes away this year and couldn't finish. So I think it's very beneficial for Philly as far as the structure of the deal. Obviously, the money that Hurts got, well deserved, leading that team to. They were looking like they could have potentially run the table. He got hurt late in the year. They let Gardner Minshew go out there and lose a couple games, but still secured the 1 seed, made the Super Bowl.
He was healthy.
In week 18, though.
Oh, the Commanders are like week 9 on a Thursday night.
Oh, I think you're right. MVP frontrunner until he got hurt. A lot of positives to take away from that year in Philly. I think the addition of A.J. Brown, a big catalyst for that, and now the quarterback's getting paid too. So, but now, of course, all eyes shift back to Mr. Lamar Jackson and what he has dreamt about money-wise. He was apparently offered $200 million today, guaranteed, or not about today, but
yeah, he was offered period at some point in time.
Yeah, Rap Sheet hopped on the Pat McAfee / Aaron Rodgers show and give us that little bit of intel. Seth, how do you think this shakes out? Do you think Lamar gets paid to the extent he wants to? Do you think he should be paid more than Jalen Hurts?
I don't see how he's going to get paid more than Jalen Hurts.
That's a man who doesn't really have any clue what's going on most of the time on any.
I think I agree with him, to be honest.
I do too. But
I mean, I understand this discussion here because Jalen Hurts he lit it up last year at least, and the Eagles. I mean, they had a great season. Lamar Jackson. I constantly am seeing articles and posts and tweets about how
more common thing for quarterbacks. I mean, RG3 is the first example you think of, unfortunately, just because of how talented he was and what happened to him injury-wise. And Lamar's certainly been luckier than that. But I think that if Jalen Hurts gets $179 million guaranteed and you're offered $200, I would take that before I even flip the page. I don't know what else he plans to get. As a Chargers fan, I don't love what Hurts got because the Herbert and Burrow are going to get way more than that. Burrow obviously having a much closer resume playoff-wise, even better than Hurts, and Herbert working on it. They could hold a 30-point lead, but I think it's safe to assume both clear maybe $200 million by the time they come up.
Who's the highest?
Well, Jalen Hurts signed the biggest deal ever, I believe. So.
I think Herbert and Burrow are going to get 250 plus.
Yeah, I mean, if Lamar gets 200, then that's. Yeah.
I don't think Lamar's going to get 200. He's I don't know. Like, dude, if you're the Ravens,
close to 200.
If you're the Ravens, you got to be sitting there and being like, is he worth it? Like, is he worth $200 million?
Well, we already know the answer to that because he hasn't been signed yet. I mean, he's on the non-exclusive tag and all that, so he's going to be.
Well, the problem is it's not a fair market. Like, I bet some.
No, because of the Deshaun Watson deal.
No, I bet some team would give him $200 million guaranteed. They just also don't want to give up 2 first-round picks.
That's what complicates matters. Is it's not just paying him; it's also paying for it in draft season. So I think that's also a key component to keep in mind.
When did these deals get so big? I mean, how long?
Cap goes up.
Yeah.
Cap goes
Every
up.
time they renegotiate a TV deal and all this stuff, revenue keeps going up. And as players fight for, rightfully so, an increased share of said revenue, it's just only going to keep climbing.
Who's the first $100 million? Like, who?
I don't know this off the top of my head.
It might have been like Goff or Stafford.
If I had to guess, it was Eli Manning.
No.
That's, yeah. Let's see.
Brett Favre, never mind. Well, that was a 10-year deal. So
right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, technically, but like.
Michael
like-
Vick got 6 years, $100 million in 2011.
So what did Hurts get today?
He got a 5-year, $255 million extension.
Well, I mean, it's been 12 years.
$179 million guaranteed. Which again, you take a team to a Super Bowl and you're up for a contract. That is what tends to happen, and that's why Lamar is scratching and clawing for anything similar to that. Because he's missed, I believe, off the top of my head, 10 of his last 30-ish games. I mean, that's just,
yeah.
You can't go to the cash counter with that kind of recent body of work, unfortunately. Because I think he's extremely talented. He's an electric player when he's healthy, and everything is clicking out there for this Ravens team. But it just has not produced results that would warrant a $200 million contract.
He played 24 games, 24 out of 34.
Okay, so I mean that's close to. I mean that's more than 2/3. But
in that time, he is 15-9 as a quarterback. Okay.
Right, which just simply is not. Yeah,
that's not $200 million guaranteed money.
No,
150. It's not 200.
Sure, yeah, it's Daniel Jones money. Daniel Jones money.
Right. Who again proved it in a period of time in which he had to prove it to keep his job for getting a big money extension. So,
Eric, can anyone tell me? So Lamar Jackson has played 5 years now. Can anyone tell me the number of times he's broken 3,000 yards passing?
maybe one.
The gold standard being 5,000 for like an insane year.
We had to have in 19.
Good year.
Is my instinct.
Beezy?
I said one.
Oh, yeah, it's been one time, 2019.
Right.
3,100 yards.
Right. I was about to say, please don't tell me he was awarded a unanimous MVP throwing for south of 3,000 yards. But
I mean, he was awarded unanimous MVP for throwing for, what is that? Yards per game. 200.
What's his rush, though?
oh, sure, it was a ton.
Yeah.
Did he get
Well, they got them
20
was
yards rushing? You know,
He had, in 2019, he had 1,200 yards rushing. So he was, he was a 4,300 yard player.
right. It's not quite fair, but that regular season award translated to a postseason home loss to Ryan Tannehill. So
And by the way,
I think that
just for reference, Patrick Mahomes last year threw for 5,250 yards.
yeah, which is absurd.
Threw. And he also ran for 400 yards. So he was a 5,600 yard player.
Right, which is why he's like a gazillionaire now, and two-time Super Bowl champion.
He got ripped off.
Yeah, he signed that a little early.
Dude, how much would teams pay him? Like how much would let's take the 49ers for example. How much would the 49ers pay Patrick Mahomes for a 2-year deal?
I mean, stock options at that.
200
blank check.
It might be $200 million.
Honestly, because at that point, they don't lose a game those 2 years, first of all.
Oh.
I mean, you can take McCaffrey out of it if you want to. That team, that defense.
It's kind of like the whole Shohei Ohtani thing, right? Or Judge thing last year.
Yeah, you truly can't pay the guy.
How much would a team pay you for like a 2-year deal that's on the cusp of winning a World Series?
Right, because at that point, you're guaranteeing one, unless, something insane happens.
Who was close this past or who was close last year? How much would Jerry Jones pay for 2 years of Patrick Mahomes?
He would leave his entire estate to Patrick Mahomes to play 2
Yeah.
years on top of $200 million.
So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand, like, he got drafted into probably the best situation possible with the best coach, probably the best
Yes.
pass to develop. He didn't have to play right away, yada, 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 yada. But now he's got 2 Super Bowls. Go chase it. I mean, but he does have a contract for like $450 million. So, like, at that point, you don't even need to chase money. You just need to chase legacy.
Right, and I think that's going to see him stay put in Kansas City for, honestly, probably his whole career. I guess. Which, contractually obligated or not, is probably what he wants to do anyway. So that's one quarterback I do not expect to hear drama about. At least if if not him, his idiot brother. So I think that's just a whole different deal. But yeah, again, on behalf of Chargers fans, screw you, Jalen Hurts, for getting paid like that, because that's just going to make it hurt that much more when Burrow and Herbert are up next. And, love Tua, but he is not going to be included in this Brinks truck parade, I don't believe. So,
No. Tua's head for the Daniel Jones thing.
yeah.
So Joe Burrow definitely is waiting on Justin Herbert to sign that deal, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because then you're like, I've won this many playoff games, and that's what this guy got. So I think that's
right.
Yeah.
I lost in the Super Bowl. This guy lost Jags.
Yeah. We can keep hammering on that if you want to, but we could also not.
Yeah. Like, okay, so look at the cap space right now. And obviously it's a little bit like, I don't know. It's tough to say, like, after free agency, because, like, teams spend or whatever. So let's say for, like, the 2024 year, the Chicago Bears have $208 million in cap space next year.
They're going to be writing a lot of checks. Yeah. I mean, that's...
The New England Patriots have $141 million in cap space. How much does Robert Kraft write a check to Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, I don't know if Belichick's there at that point, but I think that,
what the hell? The Bengals have $109 million. Oh,
well, they got to pay people.
Yeah.
Yeah, Burrow's half of that at least. So
yeah. Literally.
Right. Which is insane, but it's how this works.
But like the Chicago Bears cap space for 2025 is $377 million.
Right, because it's fields and empty spots. I think.
Right.
Yeah. But
anyway,
shifting gears briefly to the draft, Seth, who would you take number 1 overall?
Bryce Young. No. I don't know. I really had
checked Twitter today. It seems to be, if you believe in the smokescreens during smokescreen season, that it will be Bryce Young at 1. Now, if that's just a ploy to get the Texans to do something stupid again, then hats off to the Panthers and whatever executives they have left, they haven't fired. But I think me and Jacob are both on the Stroud bus with this. I think Bailey is as well, as a fan with direct interest in who gets taken 1. But if you believe the ebbs and flows of the betting market and everything else that goes into it, it appears that it's going to be Bryce Young. And I hope and pray for Bailey's well-being, if nothing else, that's not what they do. But, stranger things have happened.
Who do you think's better? Stroud?
I think Stroud's better. I said this to Bailey and Jacob. I think if that Ohio State kicker makes that kick, they beat Georgia. They go on to beat TCU by 20 points. We're not even talking about this because Stroud goes number 1. It's a done deal.
Mm-hmm.
And the draft starts at 2 with probably Bryce Young. So I think that's just an interesting part of it.
That's the best argument to take C.J. Stroud right there.
Yes. Yep. But again, if you can put out in the media and however you see fit, Schefter, Rap Sheet, whoever, hey, we're taking Bryce Young, and there's some team dumb enough to pick up the phone and call you about trading up, then you do it every single time. Because they gave up a ton of picks, Carolina did, to get from 9 to 1, so you got to recoup a little bit of it. I mean, the draft day movie scenario is not real and probably won't happen again, but you can at least get some of that investment back. I mean, go back to 4 where Indy's at and still snag yourself a quarterback. There was reports today that there might not be a second quarterback taken until number 4. So I think, you have to put a lot of faith in 2 and 3 to believe that, which, you don't really know if that's going to work out until it happens live. But I think that, I think it's Stroud at 1. Whether it actually is or not, that's fine. We saw Mitch Trubisky go QB1 in a draft with Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes in it. So it doesn't mean that these teams are going to make intelligent decisions. It just means that you can almost kind of see it coming some years. And I think that, go ahead.
That is insane. I mean, I'm just thinking about that.
Right. And that was a year in which the Bears traded up a spot to a team that had zero intention whatsoever of taking a quarterback. So it just compounded that much worse. So, we'll see drafts in just inside 2 weeks, I believe. End of the month is when that'll kick off. So, we'll see. I just figured we hadn't had you on in a while and see where you were at. But,
I'm with Twitter and the betting.
I guess.
CJ Stroud, though, for a minute now.
Huh?
I've been firmly on CJ Stroud for
Right. This is not a new development. No. And this has come up as, of course, when the Panthers surged up to 1, we all really took a hard look at it, especially with Bailey and asking him what he thought. But, hopefully the team that spent a whole draft on defense can get the franchise QB right and really turn that team into something much better than what it has been.
They must really like Bryce Young.
Yeah.
And I don't get it.
No, I mean, he's 5'10" in high heels. I don't understand. And that's just, I know it's off the field, but that's just off the bat something that you don't love. I mean, the Kenny Pickett hands thing was talking to town last year for months. He still went first round just at the tail end in a just honestly weak quarterback class to begin with.
Yeah, did Bryce Young do measurables? No, he didn't. He didn't do measurables.
I bet he didn't.
The height,
maybe.
Bryce Young, NFL combine.
I'm sure Bama has him.
9 3/4 hands.
But yeah, we'll definitely have more on that, as will Jacob if we ever get a version 2.0 of his mock draft and big board, which has been promised and to this point not delivered. But we will irritate him.
I said before the draft.
That's true. This is your weekly reminder that the people are clamoring by the tens to hear your input on the latest rumors in the NFL draft circle. Yeah, mock draft coming soon from Jacob between now and when a quarterback is selected number 1 overall by Bailey's Panthers. Nothing too crazy in the MLB streets. Jacob was actually live and in person for a Braves game. Jacob, any thoughts on your 12-4 Atlanta Braves as we get into the still early part of the season?
Braves are good. We have 2 out of our best 3 relievers are down right now and have been for the majority of the season. Arguably, our number 1 pitcher has been out. Arguably, our number 1 guy's been out since the very first game. Arguably, our number 3 guy last year, you could argue 2, I won't, but you could argue 2, starter has been out since last week. So he missed a bunch of starts. Our all-world, high-paying center fielder has been out the whole year.
Ozuna, he looks fine.
I don't know who that is. Our shortstop that's been playing very well is out now. Thanks, Hunter Green, you slut. Our starting catcher is out with a concussion. Thanks, Ruben Odor, you slut. So, yeah, there's been a lot of injuries to the Braves.
Yes.
And we battled through.
Right.
And we still look like the best team in the land. So,
I would agree.
This week we had the Padres, who we lost we lost 3 out of 4 to. We have the Padres, and then we have the Astros. So it's going to be a big test this week. We could end up at 12-10 after this week. I don't know. I don't think we will, but who knows? Like they're those kind of teams. So
right.
Yeah, I mean this is a big week. If this week we go 3-3, that's a big plus for me. Big plus.
Absolutely.
If this week we go 4-2, that's the biggest win of all time. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I think the Braves are really, really good. I think better than expected. The high-end guys are all kind of playing like we thought they could play the whole year. Like, especially last year. And that could be to a variety of factors that I'm not going to get into. And then, even our depth guys are like stepping up this year. So, yeah, I don't know. I think They're really, 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 really good. Bullpen's a bit of an issue right now. But like I said, we'll get 2 of our best 3 relievers back and, go from there.
Yeah, I mean, they're breaking from the model of stumbling out of the gate, as we saw 2 years ago in the title run, which is encouraging as you list off that laundry list of injuries, the guys that would start for most other teams in the league. It's not just Brave starts, it's actually quality players that are missing, but they're still winning games. This is a really tough week. Matchup-wise, like you mentioned, if they lose 4 out of 6 to 2 preseason World Series contenders, at least on paper, that's not sky is falling because, like I said, to this point, they've won 12 to 16, so there's a little bit of wiggle room there for, some injuries to be felt more against, the best competition you can see.
I'm just a firm believer in go 500 against the good teams and beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and you'll make the playoffs.
Right. If you win series against the bad teams and you're, like you said, batting 500 against the good teams and above that, then I think you're putting yourself in a great position. Right.
Literally 81 and 81, 500. You're damn near close to the playoffs with the new format.
Right. You're battling deep into August, so I think that's a good point. Now, will the Angels do that? Probably not. I can only relate to the bullpen issues segment of what you just mentioned, because you mentioned wins also, and those are hard to come by, at least after the 7th inning. So
500.
Right, survived a heart attack today up in Boston, which was supposed to be a matinee game, but actually ended at like 4:30 because of rain delays, which unfortunately took Shohei Ohtani off the mound. But Braves legend Tucker Davidson came in and provided somewhat effective relief of that situation, and gave him a run the 9th because why not? But came away with the win.
Including today,
Yes.
you and I both might have been a little bit too quick on the trigger. The Braves are 4th in bullpen ERA. We have a sub-3, and the Angels are 12th, and they have a 3.4. So,
okay. So I guess it's more of like I'm just blaming old problems. Because we are winning games late and losing them, but it's also, we're losing these games 6-4 and things like that. So, I mean, the bats could certainly help us out. Really bad tendency to score early and then do absolutely nothing. And it's hard for any bullpen to hold up getting their run support. So I think that, at least in the Angels case, it might not be the boogeyman. But, long way to go. Like we mentioned, we're 10%-ish into the season. So like the Clemson Spring Game, we're just overreacting at this point.
Yep.
But, yeah, big series in New York with the Angels this weekend. But, yeah, Seth, any MLB overreactions through 15 to 20 games? Well, not 20, 15 games-ish for the teams
like
land.
It's like 9-9.
Yeah, I think we are.
Any MLB overreactions?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
You're honest, if nothing else, Seth. I appreciate that. That's why we have you around.
I don't know about baseball, boys. I'm sorry.
How about collegiate baseball? Because Clemson won another series against a team they needed to. Thankfully did not lose on the day in which they set aside to retire Jack Leggett's jersey, so that's a nice touch.
Because Clemson baseball is playing a lot better. They are. Objectively, they objectively, RPI can go die.
Yes, I saw this in the group text earlier. I wanted to let you expand on that.
Okay, so we went 3-1 last week. Beat an SEC Georgia team. They're not good, but like they're an SEC team.
One of our better wins.
Yes, and then we beat a not great but still ACC team at Notre Dame. So we went 3-1 and didn't play like William and Mary or something, who are actually a good team this year. And we dropped 10 in the poll in the RPI game, which so I've officially decided.
Yes.
That RPI is no more. So we went from 32nd to now 42nd in RPI, which is absurd. You should not By the way, Georgia is ahead of us in RPI. So they're 38th. We're 42nd. We beat them.
And drop below them, which is this gives me more flashbacks to the net BS we put up with for 2 months in basketball, which I kind of proved to be right, but doesn't matter. I think that
we're process oriented. We don't care about that.
Hindsight should not be baked into these.
But anyways, so we need to go instead of RPI, we need to go by ELO from now on. Just like chess rankings, they have them for college baseball. If you lose to it, if you beat a team, you should never go down in ELO. You will never go down, and you should never go down. I don't care if you beat Alcorn State 2-23 every game. You should not lose points for games. Okay? RPI also factors in things like a home and away, which RPI does too, but it also factors in margin of victory, which RPI does not. So if you beat a team by worse, you should be rewarded for that. Like not all, like I know all wins are equal. They all show up on, win and loss, but that's why we have stats like these, because all wins are not equal. So it should be an ELO system. So let's see. So we're 30th in ELO, right? So this is a little bit me being biased just because like we're higher in this ranking, like fully admit it. But like we should but my point being is we were 32nd in RPI. So like there shouldn't be that big of a discrepancy, but like we're 30th, right? So let's say we play when we play Louisville, they're 10th.
Right.
And if we go 1-2 against them, like there's a chance we move up because like it's at Louisville, so like it's a hard away game. That's a bad point. Let's see. I'm trying to think. When we play Pittsburgh is 96. When we play Pittsburgh, and if we beat them, we will drop in RPI. We will.
100%, yeah.
Just because we played them. And that makes no sense to me. Like you drop because of somebody in your conference being terrible.
And handled them. Yeah.
Right. So with ELO, we're at, how many points are we at right now? Like in ELO points, we're at 1,562.66. We may not jump up to, from
25th. Yeah.
Yeah, from 1560 to 1600, but we'll go from 1562 to 1563.
Like these updated real time or weekly?
No, they're real time. I mean, I think it's weekly.
How did we trend in ELO this past week? Would be my question.
I don't know. I've only recently.
I don't know if that's readily available, but I'd be curious to see. I'm assuming we went up compared to down just because of where we are now. But I guess my main question off the bat would be how we looked compared to last week in the ELO. Because I'm with you on RPI, and again, it's the same net war we fought for 2 months. But it's just discouraging to see a team kind of turn around and be penalized for it. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So
right, yeah. So this thing only has like opponent RPI.
Okay. That's fine.
But yeah, it doesn't have much like in terms of it. I wish it did.
Maybe as it picks up steam, they'll update the UI and all that good stuff. But I mean, it seems like tides are turning with the Backage era. That's encouraging. As impatient as we tend to be as a fan base. So,
which I mean, the problem is like I said, like the whole year, I was like, I'm gonna give him this year. Like I'm gonna give him this year. I'm gonna give him this year, and I didn't. I didn't do that enough.
It's a natural thing.
Yeah, after like 3 weeks, I was like, burn the program down. He's not. He's screwed. But like you said, he's a good coach, and he turned the program around, and we're doing good. And yeah, there's no even delta for right now for some reason. So yeah, I mean, I don't know.
To your point on that, we let a guy, I guess, decrease the standing of the program for over half a decade. So I think that equal patience should be given to the guy trying to resurrect it back to where it was when the keys were handed over in 2015. So I think that
half a decade. Hey,
for a while, as frustrating as that may be, I think it's
no, just 20. You said it, over half a decade, so 6 years.
well, yeah, I'm gonna be dramatic because we were waiting on him to get fired, just like we were Brandon L.
It's almost a little bit over a quarter of a half of a century.
It's too damn long, is my overall point.
Sure.
I think that
I think he would have been gone. I think he would have been gone earlier if there was no COVID. COVID, everyone was like, yeah.
that's true. That's the mulligan of all mulligans.
Right.
So that's a fair point because there's some stuff even in that year where it was just like, just yikes. So that's actually a very good point. COVID threw a lot of things off. Brownell should have been fired in like 20. You pick a year. We cannot literally. I've mentioned this several times. I'll extend the offer to Graham Neff again, who maybe was quoted correctly as saying that no tournament, no more Brownell. I don't know. That guy seems to be the clicks business, not the content business.
He's in the reporting business. He is in the clicks business.
Yeah, which hats off to him. It worked. That said,
It worked like
Clemson
hell.
everything ablaze in the middle of the spring game.
Yeah.
So I think that while I hope and pray each night before I go to bed that actually holds to be true, Brownell did, for all intents and purposes, produce a tournament caliber team. So, again, in hindsight, when you lose to Morehead State at home, I think that things tend to change. But, I'm holding on to that spare cardboard. If it is needed, I will drive it personally to Brownell to help facilitate him leaving. But unfortunately, it will not be anytime within the next 9 months. So more patience on my part with that, I guess. But that's way too much Brownell.
Softball, because we stick with bad coaches for too long.
Well, yeah, as long as football wins, that's kind of just how it goes.
That's how
but
good.
Speaking of great coaches, softball still a wagon. They're on a collision course with several teams at the top of the ACC looking to take that conference crown as they propel themselves into postseason play. I'm still...
We did drop after this past week.
Right, which is going to happen. You lose your like second, third, and fourth games of the year. That tends to happen. Got swept by Florida State down in Tallahassee. Just tough series against an elite opponent.
There's a clear top 7 in terms of college softball. We're at 7.
It's similar to football. There's just a cliff you fall off of at some point.
We kind of got boned in terms of like when we lost because like there's only one regular season game. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we're not going to win the ACC crown because Florida State swept us.
I think that's a bit too optimistic. But I mean, they will be certainly among the contenders in the conference. I think that's all you can ask for. We forget how young this program is.
We beat Duke. I think we swept Duke. I think we swept Virginia Tech.
Yes.
So yeah, the NC State bad loss, but
right.
We're 37-4.
Right. It could be a hell of a lot worse.
So 3 of those are
2 of them were Florida State. We won the 3rd game against Florida State. I forgot.
Wait, no, we got swept.
No, we didn't. We lost to Tennessee, 2 to Florida State, and 1 to NC State.
I thought.
However you get there, we have 4 losses on the year, and they've played 40 games. So I think that, again, hats off for the millionth time because it's still worth recognizing the job that Rittman has done and Cagle, the rest of that much improved pitching staff and the bats. What's that?
Build a statue.
Build like 10 statues.
Oh yeah, we did get swept by Florida State. I guess it's not updated.
Well.
Oh. We have a guest appearance.
What's that?
Mary went to that last game where we got swept, so she knew.
And you didn't go, Seth? You kidding me?
I did not.
What's your point, Seth?
It's not very all-in of you.
It wasn't.
Anything else Clemson sports-wise before I quickly closed solo with some NBA?
Oh, the baby.
All right. NBA playoffs underway as Seth starts watching Star Wars, whatever that noise was. kicked off Saturday. Unfortunately, my beloved Oklahoma City Thunder did not make the playoffs. Got a postseason win against New Orleans, then got smoked by Minnesota. But, it is what it is. Chet's coming back, and we're going to win the title next year. So all is well. Sixers and Celtics convincing double-digit wins. Knicks upset the Cavs in Cleveland. The Kings lit the beam against the Warriors, a game in which they were not favored for reasons I cannot comprehend. But I will keep taking the Kings at plus money until Vegas goes bankrupt. So thank you for that. Last night, the Austin Reeves show bulldozed the Grizzlies late. Lakers going up 1-0 in that 7-2 series. Heat beat the Bucks. Giannis injured, as is Tyler Hero. Hero with a broken hand, a lot more serious of an injury. John Morant also with a hand injury, probably not going to play for the next game or two. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But Russell Westbrook and the Clippers beat Kevin Durant and the Suns last night, a game that personally made me very happy because Kevin Durant is a ring-chasing fraud and will never win his own title. So one game closer to him being out of the playoff picture, which is the best way to watch the NBA playoffs. Nuggets beat the Timberwolves by 30 in the nightcap, and I'm just very thankful the Thunder are not subjected to that for 4 games. So tonight, Sixers game 2, much closer game this time around. It's a 2-point Sixers lead with 10 minutes left, and then we are going to get a game 2 in the best game 1, honestly, between the Kings and the Warriors, which will tip off late in a blatant middle finger to the entire East Coast audience of NBA playoff action. So that's a rundown of what's happened so far. I still like the Celtics to win the title. Not feeling great about my Suns pick out of the West because I kind of forgot that Westbrook was in the way, at least in the first round. So we'll see about that. Kawhi had like 40. He is back to his robotic self. So there may not be any slowing him down, to be honest. But you guys have anything else? Because that is all I have for this week.
No, sir.
I got nothing. That's what I was trying to think. I got nothing.
Perfect. I'll let Seth go back on mute because Lord knows what they're doing right now.
Hey,
But we're on Apple and Spotify as usual, and again, not last week, but maybe this week, Wi-Fi dependent on YouTube for whatever reason you want to take this in live and in color. It will probably be there. I don't know. I make no promises with that anymore. But if you would like to go 2-1 on Prize Picks, check out our Twitter at the 1009.
Yeah, so speaking of, DeGrom got hurt tonight. He was through 4 no-hit innings, and he got pulled with 55 pitches with 5 Ks.
Still, again, biggest if pitcher in baseball, but honestly the best pitcher in baseball when he's on. It seems like he was on tonight.
I'm gonna call that a win for me. I'm gonna call that a win for me.
That's fair, because he'd have had 16 if he went the distance.
He would have. Yeah, he would have.
Right.
He would have had a no-hitter tonight.
As Bailey and Jake were discovering when they do rarely miss picks, it's frustrating because I've missed a lot of them. So again, the flex option on Prize Picks where you get paid off a little bit if it goes 2-1, the best course to follow us with our parlays. We post them daily, and my picks have been losing a lot lately. So tail cautiously if you do. But that is it this week. If you stuck around this long, we appreciate it, and we'll be back next week. Look out for Jacob's draft content sometime in the next 2 weeks. And other than that, we'll talk to you guys next week.